Hello there. Hi. I thought I'd carry on doing a little more of the reading from Rachel Aviv's article. But first, I've been following the reporting of the current trial of the retrial of the attempted murder charge of baby K. And I think my impression is that it's going very well for the defence. That's my overall impression, particularly with the testimony of Nurse Williams and how and some other aspects. Really, there's a lot of good stuff going on Twitter with regard to the reporting of the trial and commentary on it ongoing. And I made a note here of 3. If you're on X or Twitter, I still think of it as Twitter. If you're on it, I'm not sure if you can see the tweets if don't have an account, but if you do have an account, the 3 accounts that I think are very good at the moment, there's many that are great, I'm just saying 3 that stand out in terms of ongoing reporting and commentary, and in one case a lot of medical detail and evidence, scientific evidence. Well, first of all is Dr. McConville, Michael McConville, and I think the account's called Michael McConville, but the @ sign, the address of it, as it were, or the, not sure what you call it, is @Reason Over Fear, as one thing, @Reason Over Fear. That's Dr. Michael McConville, who's not only looking, obviously, the baby K aspect of case, that's being retried, but as I believe in conjunction with other people, going over very deep dive into the medical evidence for all the babies, as is coming out through the We Need to Talk About Lucy Letby podcast. There's episode 18 has come out. I haven't listened to it yet, but I'll listen to that over the weekend. That's the Lucy Letby podcast, which I'll link below in all of these videos about the Rachel Aviv article. So that's Dr. McConville @Reason Over Fear. Reason Over Fear. And another one is the trials of Lucy Letby. Trials, as in plural, trials. The trials of Lucy Letby. That's very much on the ball as well. And a more recent one that I hadn't followed before, I'm not sure how new it is in terms of this, following this issue and case, story, is a gentleman called Damien Harry, Damian Harry, as in the name Harry, Damien Harry. And he's been attending the hearings, and the detail with which he's reporting, going right into, which bundle of evidence it's coming out of, the Times. He's very, very, very detailed and on the ball with what he's tweeting there from the trial. And obviously, you've got Judith Moritz, I think her name is representing the BBC, and is giving a very odd and distorted slant, as you might expect from the BBC, unfortunately. But she's being put right by a lot of people en route, really, who are commenting on her tweets and saying, well, we've heard this is being said at the trial, and you're skewing it in a very strange way, or a way that's meant to make it look worse for Lucy Letby than it is. And I think quite a few people are kind of feeling and sensing that Dr. Jayaram is not having an easy time of it, as he shouldn't, in this trial, and he's not being automatically believed, and the holes and the inconsistencies and contradictions in his testimonies and what he said to the police back in 2018, and changes in his story and details are a cause for concern. And then obviously the jury is hearing all that, and it's a case generally with Dr. Jayaram in the matter of baby K, and is that his memory, and to do with other things he's said, his memory has improved over time. So he doesn't know things back in 2018 that now he remembers in a crystal clear fashion. So back when he's being interviewed by the police, there are things he doesn't know or can't remember that now he remembers very well, and that's always very suspicious, isn't it? That memory is improving exponentially over time as it nears the big trial, and throughout the big trial last year. And there's issues to do with there's lots of things coming up, and it's being all reported on Twitter and through accounts like the Damien Harry and loads of other people that do brilliant tweets about this and going into a lot of detail, such as when Nurse Williams, in the police, the CPS/police evidence that was supplied, the police said that Nurse Williams left the unit at 3:47. They've got these pass cards that are coming in and out, so the timings are meant to be very accurate when people come in and out of a unit like that. And but actually it was 3:47 a.m. in the morning of the day in which baby K sadly died. 3:47 is when Nurse Williams is coming into the unit. So there's definite issues with the police prepared evidence, and CPS police prepared evidence, which is never a surprise, is it really, when you think of cases like the Andrew Malkinson case and so many others, really. It's never a surprise that they get things wrong, and but is it accidentally on purpose? Is it getting things wrong that kind of would help the story that they're trying to tell? I think so. Anyway, I won't go too much deep into that, but I am following it very much, and Twitter's probably the best place. And in terms of a kind of quite neutral reporting, I think, is the Cheshire paper. Is it called Chester Live? Chester Live. I think that's it. Chester Live. I'll just check that. But I look at it all. Chester Standard. Sorry, the Chester Standard. But it's it's kind of a live reporting as the case is unfolding. I think next week. I think the prosecution have rested, haven't they? So next week, Lucy Letby will take the stand on Monday and Tuesday, I believe, and the defence is making their case, cross-examinations, etc. No, I think some of that's obviously happened this week as well, but I think Lucy Letby will testify next week or be questioned by prosecution and defence. And then I read today on a tweet that the court will not be sitting for 3 or 4 days, and then the following week, when we come into July, the beginning of July, will be the week in which the jury will be asked to consider everything they've seen and heard and seen and read in terms of the documents they've been given to make a decision. I've got a feeling. I don't want to. I've got a more positive feeling about this, that even if it didn't go to a not guilty verdict, that it might go to another situation where the verdict can't be reached. So I'm hoping for not guilty. I think other people are sort of intimating that they feel similarly, that it's going, that the defence are doing better in terms of their strategies and things they're pulling out. And another aspect here that strikes me, and I think I've sort of said it before, is that each case individually, they wouldn't have got to trial, wouldn't have got to a charge. It's only because they've bundled them all together and then overwhelmed the jury last year, and then threw all these renter experts, at it as well. Unfortunately, the defence didn't have anyone that they called. They had the professional witness, which was the plumber, but not the sort of the experts that should have been needed, really. But that's all we've said all that before, haven't we, many times. But had this individual case, had it just been about baby K, an attempted murder case, I don't think this is going to... Certainly if this had been the only one. And a point that I believe is true is that even if all the cases, so-called, outside of the so-called insulin cases had been brought en masse, I don't think they would have succeeded either. They needed the insulin, I don't think they would have reached... got through, got over the hoops, as it were, and I don't think they would have been brought. They relied on the so-called insulin smoking gun cases, and conversely, the smoking gun cases, weirdly relied on all these other extremely weak air embolus cases. So it's just it's a complete mess, really, in terms of justice and truth. So I'll just have a little read of... I always do too long introductions here. I should be reading the article and getting on with that, really, but obviously this case is really important, and if there was a not guilty verdict, I said to a message to an online friend today that might it not act as a sort of tip of the spear, as in so many words, tip of the spear into beginning bit of noise out, so I'll just stop for a minute. Yeah, the tip of the spear in order to undermine what's gone before, undermine all those convictions. I mean, it won't do it overnight, but it's going to be sowing many seeds of doubt, to mix analogies, to mix metaphors, I should say. Okay, back to Rachel Aviv's article from the New Yorker, which is still not able to be read, although obviously you can read it. I'll put the link below again. In November, so this would be November 2016, Jayaram was interviewed by an administrator investigating Lucy Letby's grievance. So Lucy Letby's taken out the grievance against several of the consultants, Jayaram being one of them. There had been reports of paediatricians referring to an, quote, angel of death, close quote, on the ward. It's disgusting, isn't it? Disgusting. This is the bullying, you see. This is the bullying. And the interview focused on whether Jayaram had made his suspicions publicly known. Well, did you hear any suggestion that Lucy had been deliberately harming babies? The administrator asked Jayaram, according to minutes of the interview. And then Jayaram replies, no objective evidence to suggest this at all, Jayaram responded. And he goes on to say, the only association was Lucy's presence on the unit at the time. Well, that's what he's saying there, but the whispering campaign's full on, I suspect and I believe. And then he's asked by the administrator again, so to clarify, was there any suggestion from any of the consultant team that Lucy had been deliberately harming babies? And his answer here kind of gives it away implicitly, I think. We discussed a lot of possibilities in private, he responded. Yeah, how private, you know. So that's a yes, so that's not a yes or no, the administrator asks. We discussed a lot of possibilities in private, Jayaram repeated. What a sneaky character. I'm trying to hold back on, I don't think it's appropriate for me to, perhaps I shouldn't do the swearing stuff, it's probably not appropriate, but he's a very sneaky, underhand individual, untrustworthy individual. And I think it's beginning to come out in this trial in particular. And I think they wish they hadn't have brought it. I think he wishes he wasn't part of it because it's exposing some of the issues of him as a doctor as well, his failings as a doctor, him personally. But it's hubris, you see. It's the hubris of the system and people like him, and Breary and Gibbs and Dr. B and the judiciary and all the experts, so-called, and the police, the hubris that they can keep doing it and doing it and doing it. And then it will never en route expose them. But it is. Thank God it is. I believe it is. The hospital upheld Lucy Letby's grievance. Well, there's got to be a reason for that, isn't there? Principal reason being that no evidence was shown of deliberate harm or demonstrated or proved. None. I mean, literally none. And moreover, no evidence was shown of incompetence or any failures of professionalism by Lucy Letby. Otherwise, they couldn't have upheld that. And that stands to this day. It's only when you get an individual like Evans that can join in some unholy trinity with himself, these ghastly group of bullying consultants, and the police, the horrific Cheshire police, that all that's thrown aside, that there's no evidence, and they construct, as I've been saying for many, many months. What I've been mostly focused on, obviously reading everything that other people are doing, is how they've constructed the lie, how they've constructed the finesse of it, and gave it apparent believability, and it's just monstrous. The hospital upheld Lucy Letby's grievance. At a board meeting in January 2017, Tony Chambers, the chief executive, who was formerly a nurse, that's important to remember. So I think he probably had a sense that this can happen, this kind of dynamic between certain, not saying all of course, but certain consultants who see themselves as superior and better than other people, how they can treat nurses and how they can try to push their failures onto other people, to keep themselves clean, or to be seen as pristine. So the chief executive, was formerly a nurse, told the members, "We are seeking an apology from the consultants for their behaviour." He wanted, this is back to Rachel Aviv written text, he wanted Lucy Letby back on the unit as soon as possible, which you certainly wouldn't do that with a serial killer, but you also wouldn't do it with somebody who was incompetent and dangerously incompetent, would you? You wouldn't, because there is no evidence of that. And that's why they had to keep on pushing the line, because they had no evidence of the incompetence. This is how it should never have worked, it should never have been possible, but you just had the worst of the worst in terms of how corrupt policing can be and how corrupt individuals like dishonest chancers like Evans can be. That's what allowed this monstrosity to build up a head of steam, and then you've got this profoundly corrupt CPS and the judiciary. It will just make it happen. This will to win. They're like they see the quarry in their sights. The quarry is Lucy Letby, and they want to hunt until the quarry is caught, and everything that follows from that. We're seeking an apology. He wanted, in a letter to the consultants, Tony Chambers expressed concern about their susceptibility to confirmation bias. Yeah, just a little bit. Which he defined as a, quote, tendency to search for, interpret, favour, and recall information in a way that confirms one's pre-existing beliefs or hypotheses. Yeah, well, absolutely, which is exactly the same dynamic as what would have happened, and what clearly did happen in the witch craze times. But you don't have to go back centuries. There are many, many instances of this in all kinds of institutions, not least other ones in the NHS, but in other situations. The post office scandal, obviously, that's a very big one that's recent, and that's what they did. There was dishonesty there as well, huge dishonesty, as there is here. I mean, obviously, it's all dishonest, actually. Everything that's worked against Lucy Letby in terms of the campaign is pure dishonesty and malice. But malice with being given a sort of a cover of probity and fake professionalism and fake expertise. Jayaram agreed. Sorry, I didn't finish the last paragraph. So he does that definition of confirmation bias, Chambers. And then in brackets, it says, Chambers said that he could not comment because of the court order. So that's obviously, wouldn't comment to... interesting that. So Tony Chambers didn't want to comment because of the court order, but we've got Jayaram and later on, I believe, Evans flapping their gums about it all. And Breary, they're happy to talk, aren't they? They're not worried about the court order. Jayaram agreed to meet with Lucy Letby for a mediation session in March 2017. This is odd a bit. A lithe, handsome man with tight black curls. I didn't think that was necessary, really. I'm not sure what the point of that is, but anyway. And anyway. A lithe, handsome man with tight black curls, Jayaram appeared frequently on TV as a medical expert, on subjects ranging from hospital staffing to heart problems. When the cluster of deaths began, he was on the reality series Born Naughty. Yeah, so he was there. He wasn't really doing everything he could to not be at Chester Hospital, Everything he could to avoid being there. But when he did turn up, he, wasn't that good, actually, but would rather have been doing some of the telly gig. And if he wasn't doing the TV gig, he would rather have been practicing with his rock band, because he's a rock and roller as well. And does triathlons as well. So he's got all this other stuff going on. Doesn't seem like he's prioritising his work as work on that unit, does it? It doesn't really seem that way, does it? Seems like a bit like the kind of mirror image with Evans, really, because what Evans has wanted to be for a long time is up the greasy pole of politics, and hasn't gained much success in that. Has been knocked back again and again, and hence we have the bitterness that ensues from that in Evans. So he's on Born Naughty, in which he met 8 children who had been captured on hidden cameras, behaving unusually, and then came up with diagnoses for them. I wouldn't let him near any child, this character, Jayaram. I'm not saying anything to do with the obvious statement about that. I just wouldn't want him diagnosing anybody, wouldn't want him anywhere near anyone anything to do with health. That's my personal opinion. I think I've got the right to express that. Lucy Letby, I think by the end of this utter debacle, he won't be working as a TV doctor, and he won't be working as a doctor at all. Neither will Breary. Gibbs has retired. Dr. B, I don't know where she is, but I don't think they will be. And I don't think somehow, once these convictions are reversed, that anyone's going to be looking to use Evans as an expert in the court again. And I don't think, so I shouldn't go off on these tangents, probably indulgent, but I don't think Detective Hughes is going to be leading any operations named after hummingbirds or other kind of birds ever again as well either. I don't think it's going to be looking too good for any of these characters. Lucy Letby had prepared a statement for the meeting, and she read it out aloud. She said, "I've got evidence from my grievance process that you and Steve Breary orchestrated a campaign to have me removed." Absolutely, that's exactly what they did. I keep going to this thing that had she given in to the bullying and gone off sick or moved to a different hospital, never have heard about this case, never have heard about any quote-unquote murders, never Never have heard about it. There would have been some reports about some medical negligence cases up in Chester, though. There would have been a few of those that would have, and that might have led to some further ones and further investigations of the trust as a whole. They would have tried to contain it, I think. But we know that there were medical negligence cases, and several families represented by the Chester solicitor all ready to go in early 2017. But all stopped, all blocked, really, by the police investigation into the fabricated crimes. Jayaram recalled... Oh, right. Oh, so she said, this is Jayaram telling Rachel Aviv what he remembers Lucy Letby said to him in the mediation meeting. And that he's also remembers, and he's reporting that to Rachel Aviv and saying that Lucy then further went on to say in this mediation meeting from a prepared statement, "I've got evidence that you were heard in the queue to the cafe accusing me of murdering babies." Well, I believe that 100% that he would do that. This, what is he? This handsome, lithe, handsome man with tight black curls. The lithe, handsome man with tight black curls in the cafe queue, flapping his gums like he does here to Rachel Aviv, and like he'd done with so many interviews, like Breary did, and Gibbs did a bit, less so, but Jayaram the most, because he's a fame-hungry wannabe, isn't he, really? And he's apparently going to be signed up to the Jed Mercurio dramatisation of this, but I hope that never goes ahead. It shouldn't go ahead. It will be a terrible failure and disaster for everyone concerned. But he kind of wants to be involved in that. The lithe, handsome guy with the tight black curls. He's looking, like some people said, there was a picture of him put out on Twitter the other day. He's looking like he's aged quite a lot in the last few years, and he should do, yeah. Very suddenly looking very, very worried, actually, and haunted. The face and the eyes are haunted, and they should be, because part of the evil that he is responsible for and that he's done. So he's relating to Rachel Aviv that Lucy Letby said this at the meeting. Jayaram told me, "Now I've got a big mouth." Now he's speaking to Rachel Aviv, "but I wouldn't stand at a public place doing that." I don't believe him. Don't believe him. So he's got a big mouth, though. But he's got a big mouth. So what's he saying there? So I've got a big mouth, but but it's not that big. But I've got a big mouth. Yeah, he has got a big mouth. And Lucy Letby asked if he would be willing to work with her. He felt obligated to say yes. This is someone that, as they use this ridiculous phrase in the trial ongoing, that Lucy Letby was caught virtually red-handed. Well, that means not red-handed then, doesn't it? It's either red-handed or not red-handed. So it's just manipulation of language to get you to believe something that isn't the case. So she wasn't caught doing anything, actually. She was caught just being there. Just being there. Because, as Tony Chambers said in the thing about confirmation bias, it's all, and as Breary, I think, the phrase he used was, it's all eyes on Lucy Letby. Back from 2015. All eyes on Lucy Letby. He felt obliged to say yes. And he says, "I came away from that meet." Well, this is someone that believes that she's a murderer. And he still hasn't gone to the police. And he hasn't gone to the child death overview board. I think, is it called overview board? I can't remember the exact time. But there's this board that he should have taken that Dr. Michael McConville and Peter Alston talk about a lot. Overview panel, child death overview panel. He should have gone there, and Breary should have gone there back in 2015, if they were so concerned, to have these looked at. Another thing that nobody's doing here is asking for any inquests. And another thing that nobody's ever done here was to say, well, how has the pathologist got it all wrong? How the pathologists get it wrong all the time? Oh, but you see, they couldn't do anything until they got this absolutely twisted. Their teammates, really. They were looking for teammates, these creeps, these consultants, and their teammates would be the ghastly, hideously corrupt police and this sociopath Evans. Maybe I'll stop soon. I'll stop in a bit. I keep going off track. Well, it's not off track. It's just I don't think this is I don't think this is a complicated case. It's only it's what's made it complicated is like the layer upon layer upon layer of just complete lies and corruption. That's what it is. Underneath, it's a case of workplace bullying that's been taken to a point in which someone's been destroyed because of the collusion of corrupt institutions such as the police, the CPS, a vile sociopath called Evans, and the renter experts that the prosecution team got, and the corrupt judiciary with Goss, this idiot judge, this partial idiot judge that I think potentially was chosen for the job as a safe pair of hands to push this through. Be interesting to see what he says in the summing up for the Baby K attempted murder retrial. See where he kind of, what's the phrase, where he kind of unbalances the scales. The scales are meant to be on level, aren't they? But see what he puts on one side of the scales in his summing up. Oh, Goss, you know. This is JR. I came away from the meeting really angry, but I was not angry at her. Oh no, I'm not angry at the person I believe murdering babies. No, I'm sort of impartial about that, to the extent that I never went to the police for like a year and a half, and I never went to the child death overview panel. I'm angry at the system. But what he says is I'm angry at the system. But what he is angry about there is what? That they didn't do the will. They didn't capitulate to the bullying of himself, of his bullying and Breary's bullying, Gibbs and Dr. B, of their collective bullying of Lucy Letby, that they didn't capitulate to their will and didn't see them and didn't say, oh gosh, well of course we've got to move her, yes, well we don't want to upset you, Ravi, we don't want to upset you, Dr. Gibbs, we don't want to upset you, Steve, we need to keep you on board, you're amazing consultants, we've got to keep you on board and we've got to get rid of this nurse. We know she hasn't done anything wrong and she's an excellent nurse and she's one of the best we've got, but if you're upset, we're upset and we're going to get rid of her and we're certainly not going to bring her back. Oh my God. And we're not going to get her you to apologise to her or even threaten you with the GMC if you're carrying on with your bullying campaign. Oh, that's awful. That's the system he's angry at. That they've been called on their bullying. That they've been shamed for their bullying, that they've been told to apologise, that they've been told there's no evidence, that they've been told the problem is them. But it's not only that, because there is obviously issues with the system here, because the system here, the system has acknowledged, more than tacitly, explicitly acknowledged that the problem is with the unit as a whole, and not with Lucy Letby, because Lucy Letby's been off the unit since July 2016. This is happening in early 2017 when they're going to bring her back. And they've explicitly acknowledged that it's actually a systemic problem with the unit, you know, sewage, the lack of doctors, the medical mistakes, the collective of all that, everything that totaled together to lead the other consultant, Alison Timmis, to say it's not a safe place and that children are going to die. Everything there. They've explicitly acknowledged that by bringing it down to a level 1 last July, even before the RCPCH report. The RCPCH came in and did their survey and examinations and interviewing everyone, and then brought out their report. He's angry at the system. Yeah, the system is the one that doesn't bow down and say, oh yes, well of course you must be right because you're consultants, even though you're not giving us any evidence. And we're just going to capitulate to you. No. I might leave it there actually. The videos get too long otherwise. But I've not gone much further on, but yeah, I think it's going to be very, very. I don't want to put the mockers on anything, as my dad would have said. Put the mockers on things but I'm feeling more hopeful in terms of this current case, the current trial, I should say, about and the possible outcomes. I feel more positive about it, and I'm noting that other people that are talking about are having are expressing similar positivity, which is good. And then, not least, once the reporting restrictions end, that's going to be a game changer. There's going to be a lot happening then. There's going to be a lot of. There's going to be a lot more sort of articles like this, but going into probably even way more depth into every medical aspect of every child in the charge sheet, or the list of convictions. What became the list of convictions? Every one of them. And that's something that's positive for the future. It takes, of course, the system. Talking about another system now, the system which is the state apparatus, and how these institutions work together. In their corrupt ways, they work together. They clearly don't want anything to be overturned here, but I think the cry for justice and all the arguments that will be brought to bear explicitly now and be reported on more widely, will make the need for the overturning of this terrible miscarriage of justice, it will make it irrepressible. The call for justice will be irrepressible, and it won't be able to be stopped, and it will just grow and grow and grow. So that's positive, and thank you for listening. If you have listened to this video, and I'm gonna hope you can check out some of those Twitter accounts that I mentioned. I think I'll put them below as a pinned comment or something like that. And episode 18, if you haven't listened to it yet, we need to talk about Lucy Letby, with Peter Elston and Dr. Michael McConville. Thanks very much. Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye.